Good afternoon. Today is November 12th. This is the regular meeting of the Administrative Committee. And our first item on the regular agenda is approval of the September 23rd Administrative Committee minutes.
I was surprised to read the date.
I know.
The minutes looked fine.
Yep. All right, me too. So minutes are approved. The next and last item on our agenda is the Memorandum of Understanding with the Moscow Rural Fire District. Gary?
Thank you. What you have before you today, if Chief Nickerson would join us. What you have before you today is a memorandum of understanding between the City of Moscow and the Moscow Rural Fire District. As noted in the CCSR, MVFD and our volunteer fire department and Moscow Rural Fire District have worked together since the fire district was formed. In fact, in order, at least the rule was, in order to be a volunteer with the fire district, you had to be a member of the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department. So we're kind of joined at the hips for years. Our chief has acted as the chief of the Moscow Rural Fire District, so would take additional training in wildland fire, urban, rural interface, so on and so forth. So this memorandum of understanding just puts into writing what we've done in the past. So what we're trying to do, the rural commissioners met with them numerous times over the last couple of years. At one time, because of the work that the chief does for the rural fire district, they wanted to perhaps have a job description for the chief. Said that would be inappropriate. He already has a job. So the services that he provides to you are through his employment at the City of Moscow, hence the MOU. Services we've provided, we've had mutual aid agreements with the Rural Fire District. We have an agreement with them that they store equipment at Fire Station number 3, and they've paid some amount of money to be able to do that, which expires here in about 20 years, I believe. They paid a certain amount of money so they could have some storage up there. The city donated the Rural Fire District the property upon which the rural station is adjacent to station number 2, Moscow's station number 2. So we have a long history of working together. In addition, the command vehicles that the chief and battalion chiefs, the suppression captains used, are also their City of Moscow vehicles, but they respond out in the county as well. So it's the symbiotic relationship, and we've responded, or MVFD has responded with rural equipment when appropriate in town, and of course under the MOU we take our equipment out into the county for structure fires as necessary as well. Chief can talk about the particulars. This document merely talks about the different responsibilities and putting it in writing.
You got a question?
Yes. Did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think the biggest thing, like Gary said, is it formalizes everything that we've been doing for the most part. We also manage their records management system in coordination with our current records management system as well. So it's actually all in one system to make it a lot easier. We can actually break out some of the information, not all of it like I like, but it does work. And that just one more thing that we provide for them. We also do all the reporting to the state, which is required to obtain grants and so forth. So we submit everything to the state monthly, bi-monthly, depending on how many reports we have outstanding. So everything is done for them on that regard. So which makes life a lot easier for them as well. So, but pretty much like Gary said, it just formalizes everything a little bit and puts it in perspective of. So we know what the expectations are, because there has been areas where sometimes that, hey, where's the line, or where's this go, or it kind of wiggles along the way, and this kind of helps kind of clarify some of those things. So, which I think is going to make it a lot easier and better for both.
Now, I was just going to make a joke about having them in on strategic planning, but that's a joke. Because I'm it's not strategic planning. It's not a joke, but I know that that's a process.
Right. They're actually getting ready to start one. So.
Yeah, I figured that had to happen
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, I just have a statement. I serve as the liaison to the volunteer fire department, and I've been impressed with our partnership and the way that we've worked together. But now, after a couple of years of being a liaison, I think that I couldn't be more in favor of this. I think it's a good relationship. It is a symbiotic moment, and I'm just very, very in favor of it.
Do, since you've had this relationship for so long, do you foresee any things ever having to be adjusted as time goes on, like revisiting the MOU, or is it?
Could all be
Pretty
based on
static.
call volume, types of services, all those type of things. I mean, anything can come up at any time. It's just like our regular mutual aid agreements, automatic aid agreements with others around the area. You always need to address something when it comes up. Right now, currently, I'm working on redoing all of our mutual aid agreements for every one that we have, which a lot of them haven't been done for a long time. So yeah.
Some things have changed. You'll see in there under MRFD responsibilities that there are things like our active 911 system, some of those things that the rural commissioners indicated that they will pay for. We've been providing it without charge up till now. So in order that it's an equitable, I guess, proportional payment for that sort of thing. And in addition, under the chief's responsibilities or city's responsibilities, there are some things that if the chief was hired by the MRFD, he might be doing more intense budgeting, that sort of thing, that the commissioners want to do themselves. So it's more a command and administrative support service type of thing.
This payment that you spoke of earlier, is that a surprise? Or it just hasn't been,
No, some of it
On the
is
radar?
some new programs. The
Okay.
records program that the chief talked about, the active 911 program. Was there another one? Can't recall off the top of my head.
Command services type stuff, and it doesn't cover everything.
Sure.
It's just something in return for some services that we provide. Specifically, like Gary said, the emergency reporting itself, for them, it would be right around $3,000, $2,500 for a year. So we
Yeah.
could recoup that portion of it. The active 911 system that we get on our phones, same kind of thing. And they'll get 20 licenses for their members specifically. Now, again, like Gary said, most all of them are members of the city anyway, so it's kind of but they feel it, and I think they're absolutely right, and they want to participate, and they want
Exactly.
to do what's right, and I don't think last we had a conversation, there's not an issue at all with it, so.
Yeah. It's important to have skin in the game too.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's $3,000, it's still contributing.
It'll be more than that, but that's just the one program that we
Right.
have, so.
And we're reviewing this. You'll see that on its renewal, it's reviewed annually for changes in the cost and that sort of thing, but also every 5 years, it'll be reviewed in toto to determine if it's a good relationship going forward. For instance, if lots of stuff happens in the county that the chief is spending a lot of his time out there, then we may need to reassess. So it's meant to have some flexibility.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sounds like we're all recommending approval. And consent agenda for this?
Certainly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief.
Appreciate it.
Then the last item, which is not an agenda item, is a report from Gary about the ERP software update.
Okay, and Brandy, you've heard about this in our council leadership meetings. ERP is, I believe, enterprise resource, I can't remember the last thing. Anyway, it essentially is our financial software. Right now, we have Springbrook software, which we've had for about 20 years. It has become, I don't know that we've outgrown it or if the product isn't keeping up with where we need to be, but we're finding that it isn't as flexible as we would like. You recall during our budget session, we talked about convenience fees and how we were budgeting approximately $140,000 a year for convenience fees. Those are the fees that we are charged from someone who pays their bills with a credit card and any sort of electronic payment. So that comes right out of the pockets of the city. So there's no way to recoup that. When you buy anything with a credit card, there's a convenience fee embedded in that price of whatever you're buying. We're not allowed, state allowed us to start charging convenience fees a couple of years ago. A lot of governments are doing it now. The state does it, counties do it, and most of the cities do it as well. Ultimately, ideally, you would like your software to be able to just do that internally, and then the cost is essentially with whatever you're paying for your software. There are outside services that do it. The county and some other places around the state have used a service called Access Idaho, which is a separate service. It's somewhat clunky, it's not intuitive, and it's not very customer friendly. So we would like to have that software to be able to do that. In addition, Springbrook over the years has become less than optimal in customer service. We've purchased a couple of modules. Modules, of course, are separate services under the general software license. They cost extra money, but we've had a couple of modules that we've tried to implement that have not worked very well, and we've essentially abandoned them. So what we would like to do, and we've identified funding, we'd like to go out for a request for proposals for replacement of our financial software. There are modules within it, such as permitting software, things like that. It would all be integrated. We also would like to get enterprise-wide, or at least many more licenses than we have under Springbrook. Each new license costs you additional money, just accessing your own data with the software. So it's like individual site licenses for Microsoft and that sort of thing. We anticipate the cost will be somewhere around $350,000. We've identified funding in the enterprise funds, which a lot of it is utility billing and that sort of thing, of about $80,000 apiece. Would leave about $120,000 that the general fund would be responsible for. And when I say general fund, I'm also including Parks and Rec, since Parks and Rec is subsidized by the general fund, culture and recreation, arts, all of those sorts of things. So we would like to move forward with this at this time, put out an RFP. As I said, we've identified funding for it. We would utilize $120,000 of either unanticipated fund balance carryover, which is funds that were appropriated but not spent last year. So usually those funds are distributed into various capital accounts for the council to deal with next year when they're approving capital projects. In this case, we would just retain some of that in fund balance and ask the council to open up the budget for us when it comes time, if we're able to find a suitable substitute for the program that we have. We'd like to do that now because it's the optimal time. We're at end of year. If we go out to RFP, we'd like to do that as soon as next week. And then identify whichever is a successful proposer, negotiate a deal, and get it the beginning of the implementation. It's not just implementation, it's migration of our data over to the new software. We'd like to do that in what is the slowest time we have in finance, which is between the audit and the beginning of the budget, which gives us about mid-January through mid-March. It's a very aggressive timeline, but I'd hate to miss that window of time, have us in the same position next year. So what we would do, if the council or committee advises that they're okay to go ahead, I'll bring a proposal to you, both the RFP as well as the funding package to you at council on November 18th. If we get approval there, we will immediately put that out to proposal and we'll start the process. And that would allow us, like I told the Public Works Finance Committee, Public Works Finance Committee, sorry, I got mixed up, that I don't know if there will be a partial rebate from Springbrook if we are able to identify a program. We don't go the whole year, but the cost of the software appears to be, at least some of those that we've looked at, would appear to be savings from that what we're paying for Springbrook right now. And mainly, not mainly, but an added benefit is be able to assess that. And the council's already assessed the convenience fee. It's just we have no way to implement it. So we would like to get that underway if possible.
So we're looking or anticipating also that there would be a reduced monthly fee
Yes.
for a changed,
Yeah, and the only way we know that is we've looked at, I mentioned at Public Works Finance, that we've looked at software obtained through a recent RFP with Hayden and Sandpoint. There are other software packages out there, so we're kind of looking around. Some programs are more expensive than Springbrook. Some are less expensive, but it all depends, the different modules, the different costs associated with it. We won't know till we actually look at the proposal, but we anticipate that it should be very competitive, if not more, less cost than what we're paying now. But again, I can't say that until we get the proposals.
Sounds good.
I think customer service is key. $350 to $350,000 customer service shouldn't differ. And so I hope that in the next software package, you find that customer service is a big plus. Because that's so frustrating to have a problem and not be able to solve it.
You're absolutely right. Part of it is just the advancement. A lot of these software companies get purchased. Springbrook was purchased by Acela. You have other services. We were just talking about Spillman the other day, which is our police records management software, was purchased by a much larger company. So what happens is it's the core service of the software company, and then when they sell to a larger company, it's then just a component of what they do. Not to mention that back when we identified Springbrook years and years ago, it was cutting edge stuff. And now there are more software companies who are out there offering a more diverse product base.
Sweet. Okay.
all right,
Okay, we will proceed if that's the will of the committee.
please proceed.
Thank you.
All right, anything
Staff has
else?
nothing further.
All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.